Good morning, my fellow yoga travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. All right, this week I've been working on the ego self axis, so I want to recapitulate that and move on as we end our week. The ego self axis is the idea of recovering lost knowledge by allowing your ego to surrender and be subordinate to something, the great self, the Atman, as it's called in yoga. And the danger, of course, is initially getting inflated and thinking that you're more than you really are because you have this capacity to understand, recognize, and then embody divine energy. But it begins first by recognizing that your own ego is probably alienated in some way, that you've been living in a wasteland or a desert. And the only way you're going to be healed is getting renewed contact with your own instinctive nature. Okay. Then we mentioned the idea that as you're working through these things, you have the encounter, the numinous encounter, the magical encounter, the re-enchantment of the world, the blessings which happen as a result of it. Then you have to adopt this sacrificial attitude because you realize you're not the only thing. Something else is really more important, more relevant. And then if you have this encounter, the idea is not to get so lost or inflated by it. But that's what's going to happen once you open up that passage to what I call the archetypal. And if you do this, even your own individual experience, whether you get scorn, disgrace, dishonor, rejection, it takes on a meaning and majesty when it's related to the archetypal paradigm that you have inside yourself. So it's going to give you a sense of cosmic dimensions and the importance of your deeds. What are you doing? By their fruits you shall know them. And the reality of the psychic states that accompany doing good, being kind. So first, you got to be parted from that which you're dependent upon, but which one is not, before you can become aware of what one really is. So accept the full paradoxical nature of what the psyche is, because the deep self is the organ of acceptance par excellence. It can handle all the dualities, all the divisions. Remember, paradox is a truth standing on its head, trying to get your attention. So the practice of yoga, and I never say yoga is the only one or the best one, but it's the one that I'm using as my metaphor, promises psychic well-being, values that are to be cherished. It's almost irresistible once you get into it. Then you realize that deep embedded inside everybody is the supreme waiting to be redeemed. And yes, from the old Greek tradition, Narcissus yearns to be united with himself because he's alienated from his own being. Once you find out what your own being really is, you won't feel alienated anymore. You'll feel connected. And so remember that you are a unique individual. The sole carrier of life is always an individual. So there's universality to it, and you can differentiate yourself from everybody else because that's the only way you can become an individual. Not divided, yet at the same time connected to the greater whole. So I hope you will find in your own way how you move from the understanding of the ego self axis to take you out of being alienated, to give you an encounter with the deep self, and then to learn to truly individuate, be one of a kind, never seen in a land, air, or sea before, now, or afterwards, the beautiful being that you are and you're intended to be. So have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Just a reminder, subscribe to GabrielHalpern.com. Tell your friends and family. There's a ton of stuff to cherry pick there. And next week, we'll be picking up the next class in the Good Vibrations series on inspiration and dissatisfaction, Wednesday from 11 to 1. Go to my website and register there. And then we'll see you again in another 2 weeks on the 26th for Yoga and Inner Alchemy. A great weekend. Happy Passover and Easter to all our friends out there.